weapon, Officer Pulaski, that was used to gun down a police officer not 10 minutes ago. Officer Pendlebury. A fine man, I might add. Eddie, chill out, man.
The prick's still breathing.
That's good. Hernandez. Finish him off.
Come on, please, don't make me do this.
Say what?
I can't.
Hey, I thought you understood.
He's a fucking cop, you maniac.
Not no more, he ain't.
We went over this. It's about percentages.
I know.
So whose side you on? His or mine?
Yours, Frank, yours.
Then be a fucking man. You cap him, or I cap you.
Come on, do it! Pull the trigger!
Show us your hand. I'll take that, Hernandez.
Hey, that's my paper, man. That's money.
This is drug money. Watch your head.
Ah!
Oh, my bad.
Get out of here, you greaseball bastard! Stupid Mexican. Oh, hey, sorry.
My bag. Hey, man, my bag.
Well, that's a good thing we found you and retrieved the murder weapon.
That ain't my gun.
Don't bullshit me, Carl.
Yeah, don't bullshit him, Carl.
What the fuck you want from me this time?
fool. We losing the streets, man.
Nah, we just standing by our principles, homie.
But our principles are making us bitches, man. Everyday ballers get stronger, and you and I get weaker. You and I get poorer, man.
Man, that shit'll blow over.
Oh,
It
whatever,
always
man.
does.
Biggest money-making opportunity that guys like us will ever see.
I got all the shit I need. Man, I thought we was in this for the hood. Not destroying the family, man. It's Grove Street, nigga.
You punk ass bitch. He seems to disagree with some of our methods.
No, who could do that?
Yeah, you'll never find anybody as fork-tongued as this snake-ass bastard. Soon as he gets caught with his hand in the cookie jar, he'll whistle any tune Internal Affairs wants him to.
See, they got him hiding up Mount Chiliad someplace, so they can manipulate his testimony any way they want to.
I want you to pay him a little visit, Carl, and destroy all his evidence before he testifies.
Sort this out, Carl, so Officer Tenpenny can sleep easy at night. Man, we want evidence he ain't gonna talk.
attention? Now there's a ruined town out west of here, Aldea Malvada. And there's some piece of shit DEA officer meeting with an FBI agent with a dossier. Now you get the dossier and you make both of them disappear.
Looking younger these days.
Some young journalist out there is trying to get a name for himself.
He doesn't know how the streets work. That he's supposed to report what he's supposed to report.
Yeah, anyway, we need you to shut him up for us.
And that Stooley. Shut him up too.
Yeah, there's some reporter who's digging up dirt on Pulaski. We don't know who's talking, but we know the reporter's meeting him today.
Take care of him.
entertainment.
Officers Eddie Pulaski and Frank Tenpenny, both hardworking members of a community policing unit, have been charged with racketeering, corruption, narcotics, and sexual assault.
They brought it on
These
themselves.
charges pale in
That
comparison
bastard
to
cost
the
me
core
my
allegations
farm.
that these
And he
officers
hogged the
conspired to
barn.
kill fellow officer Ralph Pendlebury, who had threatened to turn state's evidence, and who was then found shot dead in a supposedly unrelated gang incident. close
I
to
say
Los
20
Angeles
years.
Airport.
Try 5 years.
During the
Cops
trial,
always get off easy.
prosecution
Yeah, I
had to
heard
deal
that.
with lost evidence, retracted witness statements, and now the disappearance of fellow officer Jimmy Hernandez and Officer Pulaski himself, believed to be on the run. Oh wait, they're exiting the courtroom now.
That bastard Pulaski will probably turn up
Listen,
dead just
listen.
like the rest
In light
of
of the
them.
lack of evidence against my client, the district attorney's office has seen fit to drop all charges
What?
against this innocent man.
That's bullshit.
You see? You
Sensational,
can't trust the
truly
system, man.
unbelievable. This surprise decision is wholly unprecedented.
Oh, man, ain't no
Absolutely,
justice.
Los Santos will burn tonight.
There ain't no justice, man. Scum like Tenpenny stay on the street. This is fucked up. We should try it. Maybe like to consult Professor Holland's jerk off.
Yeah, regular.
Make the monkey.
Fate
Yeah.
entertainment.
Hey, Smoke, what made you flip out like that, man? Was it the drugs or what?
I got caught up in the money, the power. I don't give a shit. Oh, fuck, man.
Why you just didn't quit, man? We was like family, homie.
I had no choice. I had to do it. I just see the opportunity. Oh, when I'm gone, everyone gonna remember my name. Big Smoke. Oh.
Damn, man. Waste.
Carl Johnson, my man. I need you to do me another favor. Kill Pulaski, now this fat fuck? There's no stopping you. Drop the gun.
You ain't leaving here alive, man.
Where's your brother at, huh?
Why you just didn't shoot me in the back? Feeling exposed, huh?
Shut your dumb ass up and load the bag. Come on, let's go. I ain't got time to fuck with you.
So what it's like, Tenpenny, huh? All alone? Nobody got your back? Suck, huh?
Why you think I'm alone? I got a couple of rookies outside. But I gotta open their eyes slowly, you know. Little truth here, little truth there. Alright, fuck it, that's enough. Chuck it over. I got a fire truck to catch.
You crazy, man. Lost. You gone.
Half the city's looking for cops to kill, Carl. And I ain't about to get dragged out of a patrol car and get beat to death by some angry mob. No, not tonight.
What you catching? A plane?
Ding, 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 ding! Good answer, Carl! You know, you're gonna thank me one day for opening your fucking eyes. Oh, I almost forgot, Carl. Time to die.
Sweet!
What? Mother... It ain't over, Carl. It ain't over.
Carl, you motherfucking piece of shit gang-banging cocksucker! Tenpenny, you motherfucking piece of shit! I ain't letting you get away with all you done!
Wait, no!
Come on, assholes! I'll take you all! You're mine! Mine! I run this town! Hey! Over here! Hey! Officer down, come on! Hey! Assholes! You never understood what I did. 50 of me, and this town would be okay. I took the trash out. I did. And I do it all again.
And our top story concerns the death of recently cleared police officer Frank Tenpenny. His body was found in the aftermath of the recent riot set off by his acquittal. Coroners took several days to identify the body, which had been mutilated and stripped by the homeless.